Today we are talking about the power of atomic habits from James Clear. For this, I have a very special guest with us. Please welcome Grace, an expert in helping people build better habits for learning English. Hi, Grace. Thanks for being here.
Hi, Jason. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Today, we have something really important for all our listeners: how small, simple habits can lead to big results in our lives. I know a lot of our listeners want to improve their English, and sometimes that can feel like a huge task. So I'm really excited to hear your advice on how habits can help us.
Absolutely, Jason. Learning a new language can definitely feel overwhelming. The idea of becoming fluent can seem so far away. But the good news is, just like with anything else, big improvements in English come from very small, consistent actions.
That sounds much less scary. Can you give us an example of how these small changes over time can work for learning English?
Let's think about something many English learners want to do: improve their listening skills. Now, the idea of watching a 2-hour English movie every day can sound impossible for someone who is learning English. But what if you started with something much smaller? What if you decided to just listen to a short English podcast for 5 minutes every day? That's a small change, and that's the key. These small changes over time can really add up. Think about it like this: if you listen for 5 minutes every day, after a week, you've listened for 35 minutes. After a month, that's over 2 hours of listening practice. That's a significant amount, even though you started with just 5 minutes a day.
It's like learning a few new words each day. It doesn't seem like much at the time, but it grows over time.
It's the power of compounding small habits. Just like with learning vocabulary, these small listening sessions build on each other and lead to big improvements in the long run. It's what we call the 1% improvement principle.
The 1% improvement principle. Can you tell us more about that in the context of English learning?
Sure. Imagine you try to improve just 1% in your English every day. Maybe you learn one new word, or understand one new phrase, or notice one new grammar point. 1% doesn't seem like a lot, does it?
Oh, it sounds very small.
But if you keep improving by 1% each day, over a long period, those small improvements multiply. You won't notice a huge difference from one day to the next, but after a year, your English level can go from a 1 level to an advanced B1 level. Enough to have a fluent conversation with a native speaker and understand more than 75% of what they say. This highlights that consistent small actions matter more than we often realize. But the opposite is also true. Small negative habits, like never practicing or always relying on translation, can also lead to significant declines in your progress over time. That's why it's so important to focus on building those small positive English learning habits.
That's a really important reminder. It's not just about adding good habits, but also being aware of small bad habits that might be holding us back.
Now, there's something else important to understand when you start building new English learning habits. It's what we call the plateau of latent potential.
What is the plateau of latent potential, and how does it relate to learning English?
Well, when you start a new English learning habit, like our example of listening for 5 minutes a day, you might not see big improvements in your understanding right away. You might feel like you're listening, but still not understanding much.
I think that's why a lot of people get discouraged when learning English. They don't feel like they're improving quickly enough.
Precisely. This period when you're putting in effort, but not seeing immediate results in your comprehension, is what we call the valley of disappointment. It's a crucial point because many people get discouraged and stop trying. They think, I'm practicing my listening every day, but I still don't understand much. And this is a critical point. You need to understand that significant progress is often delayed. It takes time for your brain to get used to the new sounds and patterns of English. You have to keep going, even if you don't see immediate results. Think of it like heating up water. You put it on the stove, and for a while, it doesn't look like anything is happening. But the temperature is slowly rising, and eventually, it will boil. Your English learning is similar. You're putting in the work, and eventually, you will see the results.
The plateau of latent potential is at that moment after you start building a new habit. At the beginning, you feel excited because you see your progress. But then, after some time, you continue to practice and out in the effort. And now you feel that you are not making any progress. So you feel disappointed. You want to give up and quit. I've been in that situation. It is a feeling I don't like to have. So, Grace, what's the key to getting through this valley of disappointment when learning English?
Persistence is the key. This is why it is very important for people to know this information. When you start to feel disappointed, when you stop having immediate improvements, now you know you are in this valley. What you need to do is to continue practicing. In our example, you need to keep listening even when you feel like you're not understanding everything. Remember that your brain is still getting used to the sounds and rhythms of English. Those small listening sessions are still making a difference, even if you can't hear it yet. Eventually, you'll reach a point where you start understanding more and more. It's like planting a seed. You water it every day, even if you don't see a plant right away, but eventually it will grow.
That's a great analogy. So instead of focusing only on the big goal, like understanding a whole movie, we should focus on the small steps, like listening for 5 minutes each day and trust that it will lead to better understanding eventually.
Yes, and here is where another important idea comes into play: focusing on systems over goals in your English learning. Systems are the processes you put in place to get there. Goals are like the level of English you want to reach, like wanting to pass an English exam or be able to have conversations easily. For example, instead of just having the goal of improve my English, your system might be to listen to a short podcast every day and learn 2 new vocabulary words every day.
So it is like when you are traveling. The goal is the destination, the place you want to get to, and the system are the streets and roads you are going to take every day to get there, right?
Exactly. Focusing on building good learning systems is more effective than just setting goals. If you achieve a goal, like passing an exam, does that mean you can now have a fluent conversation in English?
Not really. All it means is that you approved a test, not that you have the skills needed to speak with a native person or understand a complete movie in English.
For this reason, the focus should be on the systematic improvements you make through your daily habits. These small, consistent actions, this continuous system optimization, will lead to natural and effortless improvements over time.
That makes a lot of sense. It's about creating a learning lifestyle, about being able to do what you need and want to do, not just passing an exam or understanding one movie.
And this takes us to the idea of identity change when it comes to English. Instead of just wanting to be someone who speaks good English, you need to start viewing oneself as part of what you want to identify with as an English learner. If you identify as someone who is actively learning English, you'll naturally be more motivated to listen to podcasts, read English texts, and try to speak, because these are the things that someone who is learning English does. This is where identity shapes habits. Lasting change is rooted in identity transformation.
That's a really powerful idea. It's not just about the actions, but about who we believe we are.
There are 4 practical rules for building good habits called the 4 laws of behavior change. These 4 laws provide a framework for behavior change that is very actionable and relatable. They help us make good habits easier to build and maintain. The first law is make it obvious. This means designing your environment to make the cues for good English learning habits visible.
Cues? What kind of cues can I use for learning English?
Cues are the things in your environment that remind you to practice. Think about your daily routine. Where can you place reminders to practice English? For example, if you want to learn new vocabulary, you could keep a notebook with English words by your coffee maker so you see it every morning. This uses environmental design principles by designing environments to encourage positive habits.
Ah, I see. So, make the English learning habit easy to remember by putting reminders in my daily routine.
Exactly. For our listening example, you could save a few short English podcasts in a special playlist on your phone. When you see the playlist, it's an obvious cue to listen for your 5 minutes. The environmental design principles are really important here.
If my listening material is right there and easy to access, I'm much more likely to do it.
The second law is make it attractive. This means using the power of anticipation and reward to make English learning habits attractive. You can use motivational enhancements. For example, you could choose English podcasts or videos about topics you are really interested in. If you love cooking, listen to a short English podcast about cooking. This makes the listening practice more enjoyable. You're associating something you like with the habit you want to build.
Oh, that's a great idea. I love learning about new cultures, so I can find short English podcasts about different countries.
You can also think about the reward you'll get. Not just the long-term benefit of better English, but something immediate. Maybe after your 5 minutes of listening, you allow yourself to check your social media for a few minutes or enjoy a small treat. The immediate rewards help reinforce the habit.
So, make the English learning something I look forward to and reward myself afterwards.
Precisely. The third law is make it easy. This is about reducing friction and barriers to performing good English learning habits. Friction is anything that makes it harder to start practicing. For example, if you want to listen to English every day, but you have to spend 10 minutes searching for a good podcast, that's friction. Have your favorite short podcasts already saved? Know where to find them quickly. The less effort it takes to start the habit, the more likely you are to do it. If you want to go to the gym the next day after you wake up, the night before choose your gym clothes and put it a place close to the bed and get your backpack ready. So all you need to do when you wake up is to put on the clothes, pick up your bag and head to the gym. This is all about friction reduction. Make the choice of learning English the easy choice.
It makes perfect sense. If it's easy to start, there are fewer excuses not to do it.
And the fourth and final law is make it immediately satisfying. This means incorporating immediate rewards to reinforce good English learning habits.
We touched on this a bit with making it attractive, but can you give us another example specific to English learning?
Sure. After you finish your 5 minutes of listening and you understood a few new words or phrases, take a moment to feel good about that. Acknowledge your progress, no matter how small. You could also keep a simple journal and write down one thing you understood during your listening session. Seeing your progress, even if it's just one sentence, can be immediately satisfying. The more immediately satisfying a habit is, the more likely you are to repeat it. Even small feelings of success and understanding can be powerful motivators.
These 4 laws seem really practical for learning English too. Make it obvious by having my learning materials ready. Make it attractive by choosing interesting content. Make it easy by reducing any obstacles. Then make it immediately satisfying by acknowledging my progress.
And remember, it's all about starting small with your English habits. Don't try to do too much at once. Real change is a result of consistent small actions. Just like saving a little bit of money each day adds up, small daily English practice will lead to substantial improvement over time.
We talked about the impact of delayed results and that valley of disappointment when you feel like you're not improving. It's important to be patient and trust the process. Those cumulative effects of small, consistent practice really do lead to fluency over time.
That's right, Jason. The time people need to build English learning habits varies for everyone. It's not about reaching fluency by a certain date. It's about creating lifelong, sustainable practices that align with your goal of becoming a confident English speaker. Habits should be viewed as a continuous lifestyle rather than a temporary challenge to overcome. It all comes back to that identity change, seeing yourself as an English learner. And by focusing on building effective systems and everything we talked about today, you can create meaningful transformation in your English learning journey. Remember to focus on the process, on your daily habits, and on becoming someone who learns English regularly. This identity shapes habits and ultimately leads to lasting success. This is why James Clears decided to call the book Atomic Habits. You use something very small, like an atom, to make huge changes in your life over a period of time based on the habits you create.
So, don't get discouraged if you don't see huge progress immediately. Focus on building good learning systems, like daily listening or vocabulary practice, rather than just focusing on the distant goal of fluency. And most importantly, aim to become someone who naturally practices English as part of their daily life. Use the 4 laws of behavior change to develop good habits. Make it obvious, make it attractive, make it easy, and make it immediately satisfying. Grace, thank you so much for adapting your expertise to English learning today. This has been incredibly helpful for me. and I know our listeners will find it useful too.
My pleasure, Jason. Remember, everyone, start small with your English habits, be patient with your progress, and focus on enjoying the process of learning.